CIA, I was talking to a friend of mine last night about it. He didn't know what Operation Mockingbird was. Operation Mockingbird is the same operation that the CIA implemented in the early or late 1950s, and it's still operating today. The same thing that you talked about Martin Luther King being lied on, that is the operation that they used. Operation Mockingbird's sole thing is to control the mass media and create a narrative that comes out to an objective of a national objective, be it national security, be it this or that. A good example in the modern age of Operation Mockingbird would be 9/11. How many people were told that Osama bin Laden had something to do with 9/11? Osama bin Laden had nothing to, well, no, I'm sorry, Saddam Hussein. He had nothing to do with 9/11. Nothing. But a lot of people to this very day
believe it, right? Osama.
No. Osama was the agent. Remember, we went to Iraq. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. But see how many people, that's Operation Mockingbird. It made everybody think of a certain narrative that wasn't true. And we went with it. And then once we blew up their country and all this other stuff, got into Afghanistan, what did we say? Oops. Once all the facts came out, oops, it's too late now. That's Operation Mockingbird, and that is still a operation that is still in power today. Ask yourself this. If you turn to Channel 7, they report a major news event. Then you turn to KTLA Channel 5 here in California. They say the same thing. You go to CNN, pretty much they say the same thing. Different broadcasters, but they're reading all off the same teleprompt. How is that democracy? Where's the other side? There's no other side. That's Operation Mockingbird, to control the propaganda that feeds into the masses. Thus, you've got a bunch of Black people that vote against their own interests when it comes to voting. Oh, well, this person's this, and this. Oh, I don't care. I'm a Democrat. It don't matter. I just hate Trump. He ain't doing nothing. But yet, the Operation Mockingbird, you guys, look it up. If you don't know what it is, look it up. It is still in effect today, and it is very effective.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's basically propaganda that's fed to the masses, but it's in effect, but it's not as effective today. And I'll tell you why, which is why, and not even the Republicans as much, even though it was a lot of them, but the Democrats wanted to do away, they all did collectively, with TikTok, right? Even Kamala and Hillary and a lot of Democrats is like, oh, we got to do all this censoring, if you will. Censoring of social media because people were saying things and it was leading people away from the propaganda, leading people away from what they were told. Like you said, ramrodded every day on television. Like you said, you're absolutely right. Depending on, how they lean, you can watch CNN, MSNBC, and the left-leaning thing, and it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. Then you go to the right-leaning, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. But like you said, there's not that middle, which is why politics operate the way it does. And I always say that if we could just come in the middle where the common sense is, then we would have, a more politically stable country. You're absolutely right about the banana republic. We are completely unstable politically. It's just all over the place, right? That middle does not, come into play. And of course, that came into play in the early 1900s in Central America with the Chiquita banana company. That's where it comes from, the term. And the United States had control over their product, which was the banana, in case people didn't know. It's funny because I had to learn about that, in my studies. But yeah, so propaganda works. And this is where I did my dissertation. Propaganda and rhetoric works on the ignorant. They have to keep you ignorant in order for it to work. Which is why I say all the time, and Donovan knows me very well, and Donovan's the same way. Donovan has a little bit more patience than I. I'm just not going to entertain a whole lot of stuff. I don't hardly be on social media anymore. I'll give you a perfect example. Somebody called me today. It was like, oh, they were saying this about Malcolm Jamal Warner. They was trying to go with the conspiracy thing. I said, you know what? Out of my ear hole. out of my ear hole right now. I'm not listening to that. I said, when I see certain things on social media, I just keep on scrolling, because I don't want to be inundated or with your dogma, because you got the dogma from somebody else who got the dogma from somebody else who don't know what the heck they talking about, right? And I said, I like Malcolm Jamal Warner, so I don't want to hear anything like that unless they prove something nefarious is going on. I said, but what makes me mad more than anything is the man ain't been dead a couple of days. And I hear all these people coming through with these conspiracies, and it's just like, you don't care about him at all. And propaganda and the rhetoric, it just desensitizes people to where they don't think anymore. If I didn't see it on TV, it ain't true. If my favorite YouTuber, who was dumb as a box of rocks, didn't tell me, then it ain't true, you know? So I'm one of those people. I think I'm relatively smart in a larger scheme of things. I do okay. Because I spend time getting information, dissecting stuff. I'm not, I don't know if it's just age, Donovan, maybe you could tell me. I'm not as apt to believe a lot of stuff like I used to. But again, I know kind of how propaganda works. But yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of people here in America and all over the world that just believe, like MAGA and the vote blue MAGA and red MAGA. They are propagandized completely. And there's a lot of other organizations that I will not say, a lot of the complete cult mentality, right? In order to have a cult, you have to have propaganda to use on that cult. And propaganda, as we said, works how? Because people don't think. They can't think. All they believe and think is what you say. Whatever you say, I believe. It's got to be true. And you keep ramming it over and over again. Check it out. Vote blue no matter who. Vote blue no matter who. Vote blue no matter who. And pretty soon you hear your mama saying it, hear your grandmama saying it, see everybody at the church saying it, you see people on social media saying it. And then this is the other thing. And I'm going to give it to you. Hope and change. You got to hope and change. It's the hope and change you could believe in. Most everybody said it, but as Ann Coulter brought to our remembrance, nobody ever asked Obama what it even meant until this day. Nobody can define what hope and change means because it was propaganda and everybody ate it up. So you got to be very careful of the things that you inculcate, because then you end up spewing, and God forbid you a parent, then you start teaching that to your babies. The ignorance, which is how the stuff from the plantation all those years ago, it's here in 2025 because that ignorance was and the propaganda about Black people was taught, and you see it rear its ugly head even today.